Hello, and welcome to the Oral History Series on St. Joseph's Parish. This series is primarily focused on capturing the perspectives of current and former parishioners of St. Joe's. Today, I am pleased to welcome Dianne and Tom Taylor, who will be sharing their perspectives and experiences about St. Joseph's Parish in Ottawa. Welcome, Dianne and Tom.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today.
Good to be here.
So, our traditional first question has always been, when did you start coming to St. Joe's?
Oh boy. Well, I suppose we got involved because our children went to Protestant schools. Okay, so we were looking for a Sunday school, and we started to come down to here to St. Joe's. Okay, and then one thing led to another, and then some people sort of ran for office, and then we just kept going and kept going. And but I had been also connected to St. Joe's in a kind of a different way too. And I'll come to that a little bit later, okay?
Okay. So who was the priest when you first came here, Tom?
When a priest came here?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, when I was here first, I don't remember.
You mean with Anne Marie?
With Anne Marie?
Father Von Quinn.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes, okay, the hockey player.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And when did you and Dianne first start coming? What was the priest saying?
That's pretty much, we came because we needed some catechesis teaching for for one of our girls, and we needed some sacramental preparation. So we started coming here, and Father Von Quinn actually kept the older ones here. He was very engaging, and the girls all joined us.
So it was at the time of Von Quinn when you first started coming?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So what attracted you to St. Joe's? You sort of spelled it a bit.
Well, yes, I had been studying for the Oblate priesthood, okay, back in the 60s. And that was a very sort of memorable time. And I was in residence out here in Orleans. Okay? And there was quite a connection between actually the Scholasticate and St. Joe's, because it was quite the practice then was young priests, okay, their last year of their studies, okay, was they would put in some time here at the parish. So there was that interplay, okay? And that's going to become a factor when it comes to the whole business of the liturgy. And we'll touch that in a second or two.
So Tom, you're at St. Joe's back in the 60s, and you were involved in the change of the language from Latin to English at that time.
Yes, okay.
What were some of the challenges that you were faced with back then as a priest, or what was the church facing with in moving to English language?
At that time? Well, it was a couple of, some of it was just very, very ordinary problems, okay? I remember that the move over to the English language, okay, came out of Vatican II, okay? Now, St. Joe's was selected, and I have no idea how that happened, okay, but it was selected for the first English Mass, okay, in the diocese. Now, I came across a little document, okay, because people were saying, what's going to happen, you know, this Mass going into English, what is that, you know? And then we realized, okay, there was, my goodness gracious, there was no English prayer books, okay, there was no English missals. So how would you put together, okay, the liturgy, okay, without, okay? So things were turned over to the Scholasticate out of Orleans.
Okay.
And it so happened at that time, this prayer was a man called Bob McGrath, and Bob was a detailed man. Okay, he was also a prof over here at St. Paul's University. So he decided that he would have, if we were going to do this English Mass, it would be precise, okay? And And then, what better way to be precise was to take two seminarians and say, okay, now I want you to find out where all these translations come from. And it so happened at that time, there was the New Jerusalem Bible. And a fellow called John Miles and myself, we were given the task of tracking down all of the antiphons, all of the psalms, all of the various sort of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, okay? Anything that was going to be fitted into the Mass, okay? In the little document that you had, Terry, it was a very interesting one because I guess people were a little bit wondering, what do we do, what's this going to be like? And so there was a little sort of thing that said, well, look at it this way, okay? If you change your clothes, okay, you're still the same person. Okay? What we didn't realize, it was a way beyond that, okay? This was way beyond just sort of going into English language. What happened was the Mass, okay, became a communal event. Okay? Whereas before people used to do the beads,
Yes.
well, they would have little prayer books themselves, okay? But nobody paid much attention, okay, because it was all going in Latin. So once it went into English, it became a totally different liturgy. Okay? And it never looked back.
Super. Quite very interesting, Tom. Now I'm coming over to you, Dianne. And you've been a member of the Parish Pastoral Council. You've even chaired the committee. So what are some of the things you see the Pastoral Council doing that would affect the day-to-day lives of parishioners?
Yes, I was on Parish Council upon my retirement. I didn't have time before that. And it was very interesting times. And yes, the Parish Council has a huge impact. It's actually is the driving force, I would think, of what the community wishes to have happen here. Now, this whole concept of the Parish Pastoral Council, the PPC, actually that came out of Vatican II. And in canonical whatever, it was organized so that there was the Pastoral Council, and then there was the Temporal Council that actually held the checkbook. So these two were separate, and they weren't working together. Whatever the parish wanted, they had to go to the finance committee. Well, that didn't really work here because there's so much outreach. And when I was on Parish Council, it was very, very interesting times. It was under the leadership, Father Richard Kelly was the pastor at the time, and then Father Andy Boyer. And that traditional canonical setup just didn't work. Especially it didn't work when we, as a council, we prepared a pastoral plan that was to evolve over a period of 5 to 7 years. Well, they threw up their hands in dismay and said, how do you expect to finance this? Well, that wasn't the idea. The idea was, it was a vision. But we were not financiers, but it was a vision. So then, as a result of that, things had to be rejigged because there was a lot going on here with the supper table, the women's center, etc. So it had to be, it had to look different than it did for most other parishes. So what happened was, under the leadership of Father Frank Morrissey, who is he's the late Father Frank Morrissey, and he was a renowned canon lawyer and an oblate, and he crafted, with the help of the people here on the finance committee and the parish council, a constitution whereby the parish council has a voting member from the finance council on it, so that they worked in sync. So everybody on that council had a vote, including the pastor. So there was some ex officio votes as well, but no, ex officio means they don't vote. But that's how it came to be. So yes, I think, and that sort of started a new thrust. And it also meant that what was happening in the outreach here was protected. It wasn't going to be shut down, or it had to function. So that's kind of, so yes, I do think that the Parish Council does play an important role. And it's a good thing to do if you have time to serve. It's a very interesting dynamic and an interesting way to get involved in a different capacity.
Thank you. Now, Tom and Dianne, you've both been involved with the Cosmology meetings. And I'm not sure what this group does. So would you share the raison d'etre for this group and what it's all about?
Well, sorry, you haven't paid your dues, okay? Well, okay, actually, it's, the Cosmology Group was just one of a variety of groups that operate in here, okay? And, but the Cosmology Group was a group that was looking at the evolution, okay, of science, and what was the implication of what the knowledge of science with theology, okay? Because very often the theology books that we've had in play were dating back to the medieval, okay? Whereas you had a massive movement with people like Teilhard de Chardin. There was the whole thing of cosmology, and so this little group used to gather here of a Sunday afternoon in one of the rooms downstairs, okay? But it was just really one of the things that go on, like Terry. In fact, I don't know if it's possible to just swing the camera around here, because I'd like to show you something along that wall. Look at that. There's something very special. Look at the library that's in this place, okay? And it's open to the community, okay? And it's run by, as I understand, there's two ladies, They're yeoman service, okay? There's books in theology, there's books in canon law, there's books in liturgy, there's books, you name it, it's there, okay? Just try stealing one. They get you, okay? But just look at it, it's amazing, okay? Yep. So you had these various things that were going on at the same time, okay? Cosmology was one, library build-up was another one, okay? The idea is that we had to keep thinking, okay? I remember a fellow telling me one time, he said, whenever I was a seminarian, and we were young, you know, and you're, and I remember this fellow said to us, he said, you know what? He says, you guys figure you're just, you know, you are the front runners, okay? And he says, stop reading, okay? And in 5 years' time, you're the conservative, okay? So when you stop reading, okay, then things just become crystallized. So that was it. Cosmology was the sort of the examine the impact of sciences on theology. Maybe is that in a nutshell like that.
Super. Good. Thank you. Coming over to you, Dianne. Now, over the decades, you've always been active and supportive of the social functions in the parish. Would you share with us why you think it's important to be involved?
Yes, for sure. I'm a firm believer that we as people have a natural inclination to be with others, okay? And I think one of the things that, there is a mantra at St. Joe's, perhaps people don't think about it, all are welcome. And prior to pandemic, we even had greeters welcoming people as they came into Mass every Sunday. And we've repeated that within the funeral ministry. We have so many people that come to this church that have never been here before, or haven't been through a church door for many, many years. So we have greeters, and they say, "Oh, thank you, thank you." So that whole thing about all are welcome is very, very important. But yes, I do believe that the whole social dynamic builds community. There is something really special about being able to put a name to a face, even after having met them once or twice over coffee, which we used to have at the back of the church, and hopefully someday we'll go back to it. That's so important. And we've had many farewell events here for our pastors, and various occasions that we've had celebrations. The 150th was a huge, huge celebration. I don't even know how many years ago that was now. And
Back in 2006.
oh dear, okay, it's a long time ago. And yes, I think it's very important. I really do. But one of the things is it does build community, and that's one of the things that we have missed with the pandemic. But it sort of speaks volumes if you stop and think about, and whether you've noticed, but there are more and more people showing up at the door on Sundays. There's not been an announcement about that. Why are they coming? They're coming because they're welcome. And I think that's huge. I think it goes back to the Oblates, because when I first met Oblates, that's the first thing they did, is they welcome you. And they still do. It's a huge, huge part of their charism. All are welcome. The inclusiveness. And that's really what this is all about. Okay?
Now, Dianne, you talked about the funeral ministry. I think St. Joe's is rather unique in how it handles funerals within the community here. Can you describe what the funeral ministry does?
Well, we have just discovered, we had a meeting yesterday, and we just discovered through, thanks to Chris, is that we are unique in the diocese. And what we do is we walk with the families or friends as in their grief, as they prepare to have a final memorial for their loved one. And we help them to choose it isn't the priest's role to pick out everything. It becomes their celebration, the family's celebration. So we engage them in the choice of readings, in the choice of prayers of the faithful, in the choice of music. Of course, we have a lot of guidance from here, and that's where, and also too, in their choice of something very simple, which is really, it sounds insignificant, but there's a cross bearer at every funeral, and traditionally it is an acolyte or altar boy or something. We don't have altar boys or acolytes as such. But when the family is told, is there somebody in your family who would like to do that? They're totally blown away. Oh, we can do that? Yes, of course. Because this is their expression with the help of the staff and those of us involved. It's actually quite, it's remarkable actually. But what is really, has always impressed me is the number of people who have come in who they refer to themselves as being non-churched, which usually means they haven't been haven't been to a liturgy as such for maybe 10, 15 years. And they're very reluctant to come in here because, they're going to know about me, sort of thing. But when you work around them and they say, well, I don't want to be here because of, say, well, this is your opportunity. This is what your family member wished. So it's amazing how you can work through that and have everybody participate and feel gracious about it, because it's all done with reverence and respect and sacredness. And I think that's really what it's all about.
Thank you, Dianne. That's been very informative. Now, one aspect about St. Joe's is that so many parishioners are involved in leadership positions in the community, not just at St. Joe's, but outside St. Joe's. Tom, you have been a director of plays at the Ottawa Little Theatre.
Mm-hmm.
What attracted you to get involved with the Ottawa Little Theatre?
Well, many years ago, there was children's theatre, okay? And we used to put on plays around in the high schools, okay? And then time went changed and stuff. But I also became very involved in Irish theatre, okay? Because deep down in me, okay, there's a thing that I say, you know what? There's more to Irish people than just drinking green beer on St. Patrick's Day in the middle of March. Okay, we have poetry, we have theatre. Okay, so I was very intrigued with theatre. Okay, and as I got more involved with theatre, okay, I got involved with the Ottawa Little Theatre as well. But where deep down in me of this is that liturgy is theatre. It dawned on me one time. It's theatre. What do? We tell the story. Okay? It's as if, and remember when we were children, when the curtain went up, okay, and that's when he said, "Once upon a time," and we all went, okay. It's in us, okay. And when you think of our liturgies, it's once upon a time, okay? And here's a story. And we're even told, okay, do this in memory of me. Okay? So I'm intrigued, okay, by the role of theatre. Not sort of just, how do you sort of shoot people and stuff like this in a play, but just the idea of what theatre means.
Yeah.
Right? Okay? And that's where where the two of them kind of gelled for me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, we talked about the Oblates of Mary Immaculate, which is the priests who administer this parish.
Yes.
And how do you see St. Joe's parishioners as supporters of the Oblate Mission?
Oh my goodness. Okay. No, that sounded like as if that's a problem. Huh? No, it is that it's so natural. Okay? It's natural. Dianne sort of mentioned that all are welcome, okay? And when we say all, we mean, okay, that's the supper table, okay? The women's center, okay? It's just a natural thing, okay? And the Oblate charism is to sort of say, among those who need us, okay? And that's what our parish is, okay? The only thing that I have against it, not against it, but sort of was tickling away in the back of my head. One time I took it into my head to read the New Testament, that document?
Yep.
And I realized that nowhere, and as far as I could be wrong for this, nowhere did Jesus sort of say, "I've come to bring you religion." It's not there. He says, "Oh, by the way, I come to bring you a parish."
Yeah.
It's not there, okay? What does it say? "I come to bring you life in abundance." And that's the Oblate charism. And that's what spills over into this place here. It's life and life in abundance, whatever form that takes. And it'll take different forms with the passage of time, okay? 25 years from now, okay, it'll take another form, right? But because it's life, and that's how I see it.
Thank you. And one final question to both of you. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with us about St. Joe's?
About St. Joe's?
Yep.
God, it's a hell of a great place. That's Irish for that's a terrific place. It really is. Okay, think of the people that are here. See, it's not the building. The building, and I noticed the cracks in the wall, okay, but it's the people. And it'll be the young people will come along too, and they will sort of, there's the university mass on a Saturday afternoon, and once we get through this pandemic thing, it'll come back, and look at the fantastic staff we got.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, did I get that right? Yeah, okay, he told me to fit that in, okay.
What about you, Diane? Do you have some final thoughts?
Well, I think there's a tremendous legacy here. I did not grow up in this parish, okay? I did come here with my grandmother, and we sat, and the thing that always intrigued me was there's so many priests. And there was one at that altar and the next altar. They were all over the place. And I also did brownies and guides at the very, very old Red Brick Hall. But there is such a tremendous legacy here for people in the Ottawa area. And this just came, the number of people that we get calls that, you know, my mother was baptized here and she and my dad were married here, and she always said she wanted to be buried out of here. I think that's why does that happen? There's a tremendous, you know, legacy in that area. And people remember it. It's like it's a constant in the city, perhaps, when the city was much smaller. I think that is something which we, who are not necessarily part of that legacy, but we are, that we have to think about, and that we keep that going. Because I believe this is what Oblate thinking is all about. The priest does not own this parish. He knows he's going to get moved elsewhere. So we as lay people, we have been missioned with the care of this place perpetually, hopefully. And that, I think, is a tremendous responsibility, but it's a challenge, and we're all up for that challenge. Otherwise, we wouldn't have things going on like the supper table and the women's center and all of the other things that are happening here all the time. And that's what I think we are up for that. But once this pandemic is over, we can all have coffee at the back of the church and whatever, maybe a barbecue somewhere. It'll be perfect.
Oh, just one last little thing. There is no parish, eh? Huh? It stretches, where does it stretch in the West End?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Huh?
Basque Canada.
There you go, okay.
And the East End, Clarence Creek.
Clarence Creek, there we go.
There we go.
I had to get that in.
There are no
He
physical...
keeps sort of saying that, eh, Clarence Creek. But it's true, right? There is no parish itself, like, you know, a boundary line. It's there.
Yep. Well, this ends the interview. And I'd like to thank you both for sharing your perspectives. It was really informative. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.